For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On a summer evening in 2005, 17-year-old Nico Alvarez headed to the Bodie Island Spit on the Outer Banks of North Carolina for a sunset swim. He never returned. Despite an immediate and extensive search across the barrier islands and treacherous coastal waters, Nico Alvarez vanished without a trace, leaving behind only his flip-flops and towel on the sand. For 14 agonizing years, his family lived with crushing uncertainty, the vast ocean offering no answers, only the relentless tide of fading hope. Then, in 2019, a discovery was made that would redefine the search. A salt-crusted cell phone, found nestled in a dune fence, containing a cryptic 27-second final video. This is the complete investigation into what truly happened to Nico Alvarez. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. The Outer Banks of North Carolina, a slender ribbon of barrier islands perpetually reshaped by the Atlantic, presents a landscape of breathtaking beauty and formidable power. Its windswept dunes, expansive beaches, and the ceaseless roar of the ocean draw millions. Yet beneath the idyllic surface lies a constant reminder of nature's indifference. Bodie Island Spit, a particularly secluded stretch of this dynamic coastline, was a favored haunt for locals seeking solace or adventure. Among them was Nico Alvarez, a vibrant 17-year-old whose life revolved around the surf and sand. A popular cashier at a local surf shop, Nico embodied the carefree spirit of the Outer Banks youth. He was known for his easy smile, his passion for riding waves, and a deep, almost innate understanding of the ocean's moods. On a warm evening in late August 2005, as the sun began its slow descent towards the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, Nico made his way to his preferred spot on the Bodie Island Spit. A sunset swim was a ritual for him, a quiet communion with the vast Atlantic after a long day spent assisting tourists and fellow surfers. He shed his clothes on the sand, leaving a pair of worn flip-flops and a striped towel neatly folded, then walked confidently into the shimmering water. The ocean was a part of him, an extension of his very being, and he navigated its currents with familiar ease. As twilight deepened and stars began to prick the darkening canvas above, a chilling realization began to spread among those who knew Nico's routine. The flip-flops remained, the towel untouched, but the young man himself was gone. There was no note, no sign of struggle, only the silent, receding tide and the deepening shadows that stretched across the empty beach. The sight of his abandoned belongings suggested a sudden, frantic departure, or an event that had allowed no time for preparation. The initial calls for his name, carried away by the evening breeze, quickly escalated into a frantic, desperate search. Friends and a few passers-by combed the immediate shoreline, their shouts growing increasingly urgent as the minutes turned into an hour, then two. The unsettling void where Nico should have been became a gaping chasm of fear. Soon, the local authorities were alerted, and the serene beauty of the Outer Banks night was shattered by the flashing lights of emergency vehicles, marking the precise spot where a vibrant young life had seemingly vanished into thin air. The ocean, which Nico had loved so deeply, now held his secret. The alarm that sounded from Bodie Island Spit shattered the peaceful August night, rapidly escalating from a local concern to a full-scale emergency. Within hours of Nico Alvarez's abandoned belongings being discovered, a massive search and rescue operation was underway. Coast Guard vessels, their powerful searchlights cutting through the darkness, patrolled the nearshore waters, while helicopters with thermal imaging equipment scoured the coastline from above. On the ground, dozens of volunteers and law enforcement officers methodically combed the dunes and miles of beach, their footsteps disturbing only the crabs and gulls. The Outer Banks community, tight-knit and resilient, mobilized instantly, driven by a desperate hope to find one of their own. Among the first responders was lifeguard Mara Ellison, a seasoned veteran of the treacherous Outer Banks waters. Her deep understanding of the local currents and shifting sandbars made her an invaluable asset to the search efforts. Ellison immediately recognized the grim possibilities. The Bodie Island Spit, while beautiful, was notorious for its powerful rip currents, especially during certain tidal phases. She advised search teams on likely drift patterns, but her early observations were sobering. The ocean offered a vast, indifferent expanse, capable of swallowing anything without a trace. The initial hours of searching yielded nothing but the relentless sound of the surf. As the days turned into a week, the scale of the search began to diminish, replaced by a growing sense of despair. The Outer Banks environment, with its ever-shifting sands and powerful marine currents, proved to be an investigator's nightmare. The ocean, Nico's beloved playground, had become an impenetrable veil. There were no witnesses to his final moments, no physical signs of struggle on the beach, no discarded personal items beyond his flip-flops and towel, and most critically, no body. The absence of any definitive evidence left investigators grappling with a painful void. Initial theories ranged from accidental drowning, given the known dangers of the area, to the less likely possibility of a runaway, which friends and family vehemently dismissed as entirely out of character for the popular, content teenager. The specter of foul play was also considered, but without a body or any other indication, it remained a baseless speculation. For Nico's family, the agonizing wait for answers had only just begun, marked by the crushing frustration of an investigation with no tangible clues. The exhaustive search for Nico Alvarez eventually yielded to the relentless march of time. Days bled into weeks, then months, and the initial fervor of the rescue operation slowly, inevitably, diminished. Official resources, stretched thin across the vast expanse of the Outer Banks, were gradually reallocated. The helicopters ceased their daily patrols, the Coast Guard vessels returned to routine duties, and the ground teams, having scoured every inch of the Bodie Island Spit, dispersed. The active investigation, having exhausted every lead and pursued every credible theory, reached a painful impasse. Nico Alvarez was simply gone. For Nico's family, however, there was no cessation of their private ordeal. The void left by his disappearance was not filled by time, but deepened. Each sunrise brought not hope, but a renewed ache for answers that never came. They lived in a purgatory of uncertainty, unable to grieve a death that was never confirmed, unable to hold on to hope that was constantly eroded by the silence. Birthdays passed, holidays arrived and went, each milestone a stark reminder of Nico's absence, a ghost at every family gathering. The question of what happened on that August evening in 2005 became a constant, gnawing presence, shaping their every waking moment, haunting their dreams. The mystery of Nico's vanishing cast a long shadow over the Outer Banks community. His story became a local legend, a cautionary tale whispered among surfers and fishermen, a stark reminder of the ocean's raw, untamed power. The Bodie Island Spit, once a place of carefree joy, now carried a faint echo of sorrow. Residents spoke of the case in hushed tones, the unresolved nature of it preventing true closure for anyone who knew the vibrant young man. Every sunset swim, every walk along the beach, carried a subtle undercurrent of unease, a silent query hanging in the salty air. Where did Nico go? Eventually, Nico Alvarez's file joined the chilling ranks of unsolved disappearances. It was categorized as a cold case, periodically reviewed by detectives seeking a fresh perspective, but consistently lacking the crucial new piece of evidence required to reignite a full-scale inquiry. Years turned into more than a decade, and the hope of a swift resolution faded into a quiet, enduring ache. The ocean, vast and inscrutable, held its secrets close, leaving a family and a community in perpetual limbo, forever wondering what transpired on that beautiful, fateful evening in 2005. 14 years had passed since Nico Alvarez vanished into the twilight of the Outer Banks, leaving behind only an enduring mystery and a family's profound grief. The calendar had turned through countless seasons, the ocean continued its ceaseless ebb and flow, and the case of the missing teenager had long since settled into the cold file archives, a grim testament to the sea's power to erase all traces. Hope, once a flickering ember, had all but extinguished for those who had tirelessly searched for answers. Then, in the late autumn of 2019, the unforgiving sands of Bodie Island Spit yielded a shocking, unexpected secret. A discovery was made along a stretch of dune fence, a barrier designed to stabilize the shifting sands against the relentless Atlantic winds. Partially buried and encrusted with a thick, almost petrified layer of salt and sand, a small, dark object emerged. It was a cell phone, its once sleek casing now pitted, cracked, and bleached by years of sun, storm, and saltwater immersion. The device bore the unmistakable scars of prolonged exposure to the brutal coastal environment, a relic from another era, seemingly lost to time. Its condition suggested it had been tossed by waves, buried by storms, and slowly unearthed by the very forces that shaped the barrier islands. The phone's recovery immediately prompted a cautious, yet profound, curiosity. What could a device so old, so damaged, tell them? Forensic specialists faced a daunting task. The internal components were corroded, the battery long dead, and the memory chips threatened to disintegrate with every attempt at access. Weeks of painstaking work followed, a delicate dance between advanced technology and careful preservation. Each circuit, each connection, was meticulously cleaned, repaired, and re-energized in a controlled environment, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible for data recovery from such a compromised device. Then, against all odds, a breakthrough. A digital file, corrupted but not entirely lost, was retrieved. It was a video clip, a mere 27 seconds in duration, recorded on the very evening Nico Alvarez disappeared. The revelation sent a jolt through the cold case unit. This small, damaged device, found after more than a decade, had silently carried a potential witness to Nico's final moments. The implications were immediate and profound. The cold case, long dormant, was suddenly vibrant again, charged with a renewed urgency. This was not just a piece of evidence. It was a digital echo from the past, a potential window into the heart of a mystery that had tormented a community for 14 long years. The phone, once a symbol of everyday connection, had become a beacon of hope, promising to finally speak the truth from the depths of its saltwater grave. The discovery of Nico Alvarez's phone, 14 years after his disappearance, ripped his cold case from the archives and thrust it back into the intense glare of an active investigation. The dormant file, once a symbol of unanswered questions, now represented a renewed promise of resolution. Detectives, some of whom had been involved in the initial search, others bringing fresh perspectives, converged on the new evidence, meticulously sifting through every detail of the original investigation in light of this astonishing find. The focus immediately shifted to the 27-second video clip, the digital heartbeat from the moment Nico vanished. Digital forensic specialists embarked on a painstaking analysis of the recovered footage. Every pixel, every frame became a potential clue. They scrutinized the visual content, the precise time of day captured by the ambient light, the subtle shifts in the horizon, any discernible land features, the color and movement of the water, and crucially, any fleeting glimpse of other individuals or objects in the background. The video's audio track, though initially indistinct and marred by static and the roar of the ocean, was also isolated and subjected to preliminary examination, a routine step in such analyses, even before understanding its true significance. The goal was to extract every possible piece of information that could reconstruct Nico's final moments or pinpoint his exact location. To fully comprehend the phone's incredible journey and its ultimate resting place within the dune fence, investigators turned to Dr. Rishi Kulkarni, a renowned coastal engineer. Dr. Kulkarni's expertise lay in the dynamic processes of barrier islands, including sediment transport, erosion, and the complex interplay of ocean currents and tides. His task was to model how an object like a cell phone, submerged for over a decade, could have traveled from its point of origin, survived the harsh marine environment, and eventually been deposited and then partially exhumed by the shifting sands. His analysis offered critical insights into the forces that shaped the Bodhi Island Spit, suggesting specific areas where currents might have been strongest or where debris tended to accumulate. The video's content and the phone's recovery location prompted a fundamental reevaluation of the entire Bodhi Island Spit. The original search had relied on immediate observations and general knowledge of currents. Now, with a precise point of discovery for the phone and a short video from the moment of disappearance, investigators possessed tangible data points. Could the phone's journey reveal a specific rip channel or a previously overlooked hydrological feature? Every aspect of the beach, from its underwater topography to its historical erosion patterns, was now viewed through the lens of this singular, compelling piece of evidence. The investigation had moved beyond speculation, guided by the silent testimony of a salt-crusted device that refused to let Nico Alvarez remain lost to time. The 27-second video clip, retrieved from Nico Alvarez's salt-encrusted phone, held more than just visual information. Its audio track, initially dismissed as indistinct background noise, proved to be the true key to unlocking the 14-year mystery. Digital forensic experts, pushing the boundaries of audio recovery, employed an advanced technique known as audio spectrogram analysis. This process allowed them to visually represent the sound frequencies, separating and amplifying even the faintest acoustic signatures that were imperceptible to the human ear. Amidst the pervasive roar of the ocean, two distinct and critical sounds began to emerge from the spectrogram's intricate patterns. The first was a low-frequency, sustained blast, unmistakably identified as a distant ship horn. The second was a rhythmic, high-frequency clatter, a metallic rattle suggesting repeated impact against a hard surface. These were not generic sounds. Their specific acoustic profiles hinted at particular origins. A meticulous search of local records and historical data, cross-referenced with the estimated time of the video, began to narrow the possibilities. Investigators painstakingly compared the isolated audio signatures with recordings of known sounds in the Outer Banks area. The breakthrough arrived when both the ship horn's unique tone and the rhythmic metal rattle were definitively matched to a decommissioned pier, located a few miles south of the Bodhi Island Spit. This pier, no longer in active use, still stood as a skeletal structure, its metal components exposed to the ceaseless battering of the waves, creating a distinctive percussive sound. The identification of the pier as the source of the audio clues dramatically shifted the investigation's focus. Dr. Rishi Kulkarni, the coastal engineer, now played an even more crucial role. His expertise in ocean dynamics allowed him to analyze how currents, wave action, and, critically, tidal phases could carry sound over specific distances, and how they might have influenced Nico's location relative to the pier. Dr. Kulkarni's models indicated that during certain powerful tidal cycles, particularly spring tides, which occur during new and full moons and result in exceptionally high and low tides, the ocean's energy and current patterns would be significantly altered. These conditions could expose or intensify a specific rip channel, a powerful, narrow current flowing rapidly away from the shore. The combined evidence led to a stunning, yet terrifying, hypothesis. Nico Alvarez, enjoying his sunset swim, had likely been caught in precisely such a rip channel, one that intensified and became particularly dangerous during the spring tides. The pier, now acoustically linked to his final moments, suggested he was swept into its vicinity, the metallic rattle a desperate, perhaps unconscious, recording of his proximity to its structure. This theory gained powerful local validation from charter captain Red Malloy, a weathered mariner whose lifetime on the Outer Banks waters had given him an unparalleled understanding of its treacherous currents. Malloy, reviewing the data, affirmed that the rip channel near the decommissioned pier was indeed notorious, especially during the extreme conditions of a spring tide, a hidden danger that often caught even experienced swimmers by surprise. The phone, inadvertently, had recorded the soundscape of Nico's final, desperate struggle against the unforgiving power of the Outer Banks. Armed with the precise data from Dr. Kulkarni's hydrolog, Eichel models, and Captain Malloy's invaluable local knowledge, investigators launched a targeted search operation. The timing was critical, meticulously coordinated to coincide with the next predicted spring tide. This rare alignment of extreme tidal conditions and scientific insight provided a narrow window of opportunity, a brief period when the treacherous rip channel near the decommissioned pier would be at its most exposed and powerful, potentially yielding the answers that had eluded them for so long. Specialized dive teams, equipped with sonar and remote-operated vehicles, focused their efforts within the identified channel, battling the very currents that had likely claimed Nico Alvarez 14 years prior. Then, in a moment both profoundly heartbreaking and long-awaited, the search bore its grim fruit. Within the depths of the rip channel, entangled in the submerged debris near the base of the old pier, human remains were discovered. Forensic analysis swiftly confirmed them to be those of Nico Alvarez, bringing a definitive physical end to the agonizing 14-year mystery. The ocean, after more than a decade, had finally relinquished its secret. Piecing together the events of that fateful August evening in 2005, a coherent and tragic narrative emerged. Nico, enjoying his routine sunset swim, had unknowingly ventured into the path of a powerful rip channel, intensified by the prevailing tidal conditions. The sudden, overwhelming current would have pulled him swiftly away from the shore, despite his experience as a swimmer. His phone, which he must have had with him, likely in a waterproof pouch or tucked into his swimwear, inadvertently captured the desperate soundscape of his final moments. The distant, mournful blast of a ship's horn echoing across the water, and the chilling, rhythmic clatter of metal as he was swept into the immediate vicinity of the decommissioned pier, battered by the waves against its skeletal structure. The phone, dislodged during his struggle, was then carried by the currents, eventually to be buried in the sands, only to re-emerge 14 years later as a silent witness. For Nico's family, the discovery brought a profound, bittersweet sense of closure. The long years of agonizing uncertainty, of living in a perpetual state of limbo, were finally over. While the pain of their loss remained, it was now tempered by the solace of knowing what had happened to their son, allowing them to finally grieve and lay him to rest. The Outer Banks community, deeply affected by the enduring mystery, also found a measure of peace. Nico's story, once a haunting, unsolved enigma, transformed into a solemn testament to the combined power of human perseverance, advanced forensics, and the unyielding forces of nature. The case underscored the invaluable contribution of a single, damaged piece of technology, a salt-crusted phone, that spoke across years to tell a final, tragic story. It served as a stark reminder of the ocean's beautiful, yet often unforgiving, power, and the enduring hope that even the coldest cases can find their resolution, carried in on the tides of truth.